Hello and welcome to episode number 60 of the Knitting Teaspoon podcast. I'm Liesbeth, your host, and this is a podcast which is all about knitting, sewing, spinning, dyeing apparently. That's one of my favorites as well, I guess, these days. Yeah, thank you so much for joining me. It really means a lot that you take some time out of your day and spend it with me. And you guys, we're at episode 60 already. I can't believe where time has gone. It's been such a fun ride, and I've seen many new viewers over the past year and quarter or something like that. So yeah, welcome to everyone who's new, and welcome back of course to any of my long-term viewers. Yeah, it's been lovely to hear from you. My throat is a bit sore, and I've been a bit ill the past few days, so I have a cup of tea with me. But bear with me if my voice is a bit croaky. Anyway, and I've been itching, you guys. We have these procession caterpillars all around the house, and they leave these tiny microscopic hairs, and they just fly around on the wind, and they get stuck in the clothes that we try to dry outside, or when we just go outside for basically anything. They're right outside of our doors on both sides, so both on our balcony and on our front door side. So yeah, it's been fun. I've been itching a lot. Anyway, let's get right into the regular content of this episode. So let's get started with what I'm wearing. So today I am wearing my trekant shaller met monster. Yeah, that sounds perfect. I think it means triangular shawl with a leaf pattern in Swedish, and it's a pattern that I bought at Ull och Tull in Sweden, Uppsala, Sweden, while I lived in or near Stockholm. I actually lived about as close to Uppsala as I lived to Stockholm, and it is knit out of Malabrigo lace yarn that I also purchased there, and I knit this years ago, I think in 2016. But it's one of my favorite shawls. It's light, it's airy, it's a bright color that goes with everything and goes with nothing, so I don't care. I'll just wear it, and yeah, I'm loving it, and it keeps me warm a bit more than this shirt, because I feel like this shirt is on itself is just a bit on the cool side today. Not that it's really cool, it's summer, but still. The shirt that I'm wearing is an Agnes top, so this way you can see the neckline a bit better. So it's, well, I don't know what these bones are called, collarbones maybe. So it comes just below there, and it has all the lovely sheep and stars on it. And I think this is Megan blue fabric, but honestly I can't really remember, and for my sewing projects I don't really have a good way of keeping track what I've been doing. So yeah, there we go. But it's an Agnes top, and it's by Tilly and the Buttons. That is the pattern. Yes, I obviously made it myself. So let's get into what I've been doing this week, and let's get started with the knitting. So I say let's get started with the knitting, and I will show you a project that I've been working on, and it is a knitting project, but you will understand why I will say that. Even though I put in a lot of hours, I hardly knit on it. So last week I was working on this sweater or pullover. This is going to be for my boyfriend. I think it would be a bit big for me. My boyfriend is a lot taller than me. You can't really see it, but this comes to, well, in my lap and above my shoulders like this. But this is just going to be for under his underarms, and I still need to knit the sleeves, but I managed to mattress seam, I think that's what it's called, the entire thing together. So these were 4 separate pieces. So I had a piece that was a ribbing and a side panel here that's just garter stitch, and this is entirely hand knit, and then there's a front and a back panel there. Those are identical, as are the side panels obviously, and these are also the ribbing is knit by hand, but the body part, the stockinette bit, is knit on a knitting machine that I inherited from my grandma. So yeah, it's a fun experiment to see how I like knitting like this, and I must say, yeah, it's very fast to knit like this, but mattress seaming all this, all these edges here, so I've had four long edges of mattress seaming, and I don't think I've ever done that before. I don't typically like weaving in ends, so I tend to try and make garments as much in one piece as is possible. So it's been an adventure, and I did not really enjoy the process that much, but I do like the end result, so maybe that's a good thing. But to some extent I'm kind of thinking like, why did I have to do this faster and by knitting on the machine? I would have enjoyed it so much more if I had just knit the entire thing by hand. And maybe that's true, maybe it's not, but I can still knit a lot by hand from here upwards, because I don't, well, this front panel has an extra side panel, and the only reason for that is that my knitting machine does not have more than, what was it, something like 164 stitches, and I needed, at the gauge that I like with this yarn, something like 190 something stitches. So I needed to add a side panel to compensate for that. And maybe I could have done that on the machine as well, but on the machine I can only knit stockinette, and I decided that it would be nice if this side panel would also have a little bit of a texture, a detail going on, so that the seams weren't all for nothing. I do also like how this looks from the inside. Don't look at all the ends that are still not woven in and dangling around, but I think it looks quite neat, so I'm pleased with that. But I can't say that I've enjoyed the process, because, you know, it's just not really for me. I think I'd much rather knit all these stitches in the round and then do it like that. I also don't know why I decided to make a sweater for my boyfriend and then knit it at the tightest possible gauge that's on my machine, and that's also like hand knitting on 000 size needles, or 1.5 millimeters. Some crazy part in my brain must have thought this was a good idea at some point. But sometimes I really wonder why I make those kinds of decisions. Maybe it's torture. I don't know. Anyway, it's fine. It's knitting, and I like knitting, so that's fine. But it's difficult to get things at such a tight gauge on and off the knitting machine. So anyway, I love what this is looking like, and at this point I will have to cast on stitches for the sleeves, which I have not done because I've just finished the last seam of it, and I think just one seam from bottom to top took me well over 2 hours, 2.5 hours maybe, so it's been a lot of time this week. Haha. But I did it, it's done, and I never have to do it again, so I'm really pleased with that. And then probably for the sleeves I will have to do something similar for the entire underarm seam, because I think I'm going to try and figure out how to do increases on my knitting machine, because I just want to learn how to use that. I don't know. We will see how far I get with that. But yeah, it's nice progress. The yarn that I'm using for this project is Long Yarns Shawl, and I think it used to be superwash solids, but they're changing their range, and now I think it's just Shawl or something, I don't know, or maybe it's something like 75-25 sock or whatever. The name is changed, but the yarn itself is actually not changed, so yeah, whatever. But I love this color, nice and gray, and I'm sure that my boyfriend will love it. Speaking of my boyfriend, I also managed to take pictures of my boyfriend wearing this pair of Chino Pants that I recently sewed him. So I've not been working on this pair of pants this week, but I have made it in the past. And I've taken some pictures of him wearing it, and he has been wearing it for a few days, but it turns out it does fit, but barely, kind of. So it's a bit too wide for him at the top, but it's tight around the hips, so like he needs this kind of width here, but he doesn't need it here, so he has a slimmer waist. And also the front side of this pair of pants is apparently very high, so he would like to have that somewhat shorter, so that this now almost comes up to his belly button, and he likes it to end a little bit below there. So yeah, that's something that's going to need to be changed. And also apparently there's something that's really pulling when he's trying to walk stairs, so this movement apparently is kind of too tight. This probably looks really weird, but yeah, if it looks too weird then I'll edit it out. But I think that one of the reasons that it may be too tight, or that something is moving there, maybe because these pockets on the side, they are sewn together here, so they seem to add some kind of stability, but they are also limiting the motion. So I'm thinking that it may be a good idea to cut this open so that it's not caught with the zipper, which is a feature that I really liked because I think it looks really neat. But that will give the entire pocket a bit more possibility to move outwards, and therefore I think the entire leg will get a little bit more space when he's moving around in his pants, because after all it's important that the fit is comfortable, because otherwise he's not going to wear it for long. He has been wearing it, and he has been talking to people, and he has been claiming that I've made them for him, so I want him to be really happy with them and not just telling people that I've made them just because he likes the fact that I've made him something. Yeah, I would really like it if it would fit him properly. So that's it for the Chino Pants. Yeah, so let's get on to the next project, and I have a finished object for you guys. So it's a knitting project, and you may have seen this one coming, and it's my Nain Socks by Hunter Hammerson. So this is the second sock, and it's all finished, and last week I was right about here where the marker is. I always tend to forget to put in markers like right after I podcast, so the markers may be at around the place where I think that I was the previous time. I'm not really good at using markers. I'm not someone who typically would use markers if it weren't for just the purpose of showing how much progress I've made. These socks, they do fit, but I'm not really thrilled with them. I mean, they look very nice, but this stitch pattern with all the decrease stitches, it's just kind of tight, so it's not as stretchy as I would have liked. So I can get it over my heel, but it's a bit of a struggle. And well, yeah, socks that you can get on easily without worrying if you're going to damage your yarn by trying to pull it over your heel. Yeah, that's just nicer. And it's not that it doesn't fit me when the sock's on, then it fits perfectly. It's just that getting the socks on bit that's just lacking a bit of stretchiness. So yeah, I'm not 100% thrilled with these socks, but they are finished and I'm really happy with them. And the first sock, here it is now finished again, because I had kind of finished it before, but I had stopped right at the end of the pattern here, and started the toe decreases from there, because this sock is knit from the cuff down, whereas I usually knit my socks toe up. And this type of toe, it was just decreasing a little bit too rapidly, so I went and knit the second sock and completed it with a few rows more without pattern here just before the toe decreases started, and this fits a lot better. So then I ripped back to the same point and re-knit the toe on this one, and I had to join in the yarn obviously to make up for the lack of length. But here it is, and it is all finished, and the yarn that I've used is something that I've dyed myself in this minty green color, and the base that I've dyed on was some BFL nylon that was given to me I think about 1.5 years ago at a Sinterklaas party. So yeah, there you go, a lovely pair of new socks, and I think this is something like my 12th pair of socks already for this year, which is crazy because last year I was kind of struggling to go for a box of socks cow, and now I've already knit 12 pairs of socks without even trying or even thinking too much about that. But then again, I've not knit that much else than socks this year, so apparently I'm a sock knitter, but it's good for me to have a garment back on the needles as well, because I really like making something bigger as well. So let's get into the spinning bit, and I don't really have much to show you because I have not actually been spinning this week. The only thing that I did was wait until the yak had set on the bobbin for long enough and wound it up into a skein, and a tiny bit of skein from the other bobbin, because it didn't all fit on one bobbin. So this is 96 grams of yarn, and this is like 8 grams or something. So in total I have 113 meters or 123 yards of yak yarn, and I think that should be enough to make a hat. And oh my god, this is so soft, really, it's incredible. I don't know if you've ever felt yak fiber, but it's so soft. Really. Haha. But yeah, I have not actually taken the time yet to wash it, so I probably should, and then I can make a hat out of this. But the weather, you guys, it's not really the kind of weather that makes you think like, I need a hat right now. So I don't know. I don't know when I'll get around to knitting with this, or maybe crocheting, who knows. But I think it's going to be knitting. Anyway, so then there's been a little bit of sewing this week, and I have been working, well, I would say exclusively, but it's not true. I've been cutting out fabric pieces to make more project bags, and here is a project bag that I'm working on, or rather one half of a project bag, because this is what it looks like so far. I'm making a huge version of the llama bag because someone asked me if I could make her a bigger version of the llama bag that I showed on last week's episode. So, or maybe the episode before that, I don't really remember, but yeah, so I've been trying to make one, and I'm a bit stuck at this point because now I need to find a bigger D-ring, because I feel like it would be silly to have the tiny little D-rings that I use from my other project bags on a bag that is this huge. I mean, this bag will need a somewhat more substantial D-ring, I think. But yeah, so there's it's going to be a drawstring bag. And there's a lot of llamas on it. So yeah, not really much to write home about yet, but yeah, it's on its way, and it's going to be a huge bag. And seeing this, I feel like it's really a big bag, but I think maybe for some of my projects I need bigger bags, because I feel like I like smaller bags myself. That's also why I make the size that I make. It's because that's the size that at least I enjoy. So you know, that's fine. But I don't know to what extent you can see it, but right behind me there is a bag that is full of my scraps of sock yarn that I've used in what have you kind of projects, that I'm making a sock yarn blanket out of, a crochet blanket, and it just doesn't really fit in the bag. So maybe I need a bigger bag, but in my brain it's like, no, you just need to cram a little harder. That's just how my brain works. I don't know why it works like that, but apparently it does. So then there has been another project that I've been working on this week, and it is dyeing. So I've been trying to dye some pretty colors. So I've made this teal color, so it's a very deep tealy color, almost to maximum saturation, and yeah, I love this color. Then I've made a purple color, or a bluish purple. Depends a bit on the way the light goes, but yeah, it looks more purple, or definitely purple in some lights, and in other light situations it looks almost blue. So I don't know, and maybe it's also varying across the skin, I'm not really sure, although yeah, and there's some lighter spots that almost always happens, but yeah, I do love this color. Ooh. And some spots that are barely even dyed. Maybe I should try to fix that, but you know, I like dyeing, and I've been dyeing some more. So I've been dyeing another teal color, so I wanted to make a lighter color, so to maybe go along with this color, but the colors are actually very close, which I think is quite funny, because yeah, maybe it's better when you look at it behind studio lights, but this one only has a third of the dye that this one has, but it's in the same, how do you call that, in the same ratio. So so this has a lot of teal, or no, cyan dye, and some yellow, and this has the same ratio of cyan and yellow, but just a little bit less of it for the same amount of yarn. So yeah, there you go. Anyway, I think they look lovely together. And then there's another color that I've been dyeing, and this is the least successful one, I think. And the reason for that is that I was trying to dye something red, and this is what it turned out like. It's a really, really bright orange. So if anyone's interested in knitting something for King's Day or something, which is a Dutch holiday where we celebrate the birthday of our king, yeah, I do have some lovely, very bright orange yarn. I think orange is not really my color, but I must say, if you combine it with this, it looks a bit like a kingfisher, so I like that. Anyway, so one other problem that I had with dyeing this, so I was hoping for red and I got orange, so I failed miserably, and this is not my first attempt at dyeing red yarn, and I also don't know why I'm still dyeing 3 skeins at a time, but I'm attempting to dye red because past experience tells me that it's difficult. But I use orange ties to keep my skeins together. So this is just a piece of orange cotton that I had lying around in my stash, and it's a bright color, so it's very handy dandy because you can see this color easily on whatever color you dye, except if what you dye is also orange. Haha. Who would have seen that coming? Anyway, one more thing. Last week on Saturday, it was Worldwide Knitting in Public Day. And I'm a big fan of knitting in public. I do it almost every day, but somehow I've managed to not knit in public on Knitting in Public Day. That's just silly me. My boyfriend and I went to an aquatic zoo last Saturday, and I would have wanted to knit in the park, but it was raining and storming and everything outside all the time, and we haven't really sat down inside because the animals are obviously outside. So yeah, so we weren't spending as much time there as we would have thought that we would, and there was definitely no outside picnic kind of knitting in public. And on the way there we drove by car, so I've been knitting in the car, but it's not really in public. And I've been knitting at my boyfriend's parents, where we stayed over later that day, but that's also not in public. So haha, I failed. Well, I think I compensate. So I think that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining me. It really means a lot to have you guys as an audience. That's amazing. So I hope you guys all have a lovely week, and I hope to see you again next week. So